Hi, and welcome to the Rags to Riches show with myself, Terry Blackburn. Now, today's guest is a guy called Simon Zutshi. If you haven't heard of Simon, I don't know where you've been if you're involved in property. He's been around for a while. He's the founder of PIN, the Property Investor Network. Founded that in 2003, operates in over 50 cities across the country at the moment. He's coached thousands of people across the country, best-selling author, and he's also the founder of Crowd Property, which is funded in the region of £300+ million worth of developments across the country. Be a great episode, plenty of knowledge, plenty of gems. So welcome to the show, Simon.
Thank you, Terry. Great to be here.
Likewise. No, thank you for having us, mate. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, what we like to do on the show is we like to talk about your career so far, split into three parts. We'll start the middle and the current. Start being how you just got into property. Did you stumble into it? Was it intentional? The middle is the exciting part, the growth part, all the things that you've achieved, and we'll extract some lessons from that. And then just the current, what your attention is on now and going forward. So if you can start with the start part, Simon, that'll be great. How you got into
absolutely. So it kind of was intentional, but I definitely stumbled into it as well, if that makes sense. So my family have never invested in property apart from their own homes, so I don't really have any background or experience of people around me like that. But when I finished university in '94 in Birmingham and then managed to get a job at Cadbury's as a graduate trainee in production, what I wanted to do was get my own home. And so I had no money at all. Because I had a good job, I was able to get a 95% mortgage. I had to borrow the 5% deposit and the money to move and that kind of thing. And I moved into a little 2-bedroom, 2-up, 2-down house in Selly Oak in Birmingham, just next to Birmingham University where I'd studied. And that's the next suburb to Bourneville. So it was a good location for me. I could walk to work. It was great because I knew the local pubs, I knew some people around. So in fact, 2 of my friends who were still at university became lodgers. And in a student house, the downstairs front room is often a bedroom. So we did that. It was a hallway. And then 2 rooms upstairs. I had one, my other friend had the other. So what happened was, because I've been quite a social person, I didn't want to live on my own. And these 2 friends lived with me. And the rent that they paid me pretty much paid the mortgage and the bill. So I was kind of living for free. And that's what I thought I'd do. And I'd started work at Cadbury's. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. And that's what plan had come about. But actually, I've always been a bit entrepreneurial. And I had a part-time business I'd run at the weekends and evenings, running student nightclub events. So we'd go and hire a big nightclub. We had lots of students in, kind of low price, cheap drinks. And we do that every week. And it was a great business to do part-time, good business at that age. And I had this money building my business bank account. And my bank manager at the time, so when you might remember this, Terry, when you had a bank manager who actually knew who you were and you'd speak to them occasionally, unlike, call centers.
Barclays is like 55 minutes to speak to anybody.
Yeah. Exactly. Very, very different then. And my bank manager said, look, what are you going to do with this money in your business bank account? And I said, well, I was thinking about doing some investing, don't know. And he arranged for one of the top financial advisors from that particular bank to come round and sit down with me and see how he could help. And a guy called Kevin came and he helped me with my insurance. I didn't have any insurance. He helped me with my pension, didn't have a pension. And then he started talking about investments. And what I said to him was, I'd like to buy another house. And so he said, right, how much is the house we're in worth now? So he worked that out, how much my mortgage was, how much I was looking to buy. It's going to move slightly closer to Cadbury's. And he said, great news, Simon. By selling this house, the equity you've got and putting it with this savings, you're going to have to get a very, very low mortgage. And you should really pay that off as quick as you can. You'll have a lot more money in later life. And I said, look, hang on, Kevin. Well, that's great, but I don't want to do that. He said, what do you mean? I said, bear in mind, this was back end of '97. So not as many people knew about property. There weren't buy-to-let mortgages. They came in '98. And I said, Kevin, what I want to do is I want to keep this house that we're in now because it's right next to university. I'm going to move to another one closer to Cadbury's. And this one I'm going to rent to students. Now, Kevin was a really smart guy. He had those kind of half-moon glasses that professors and things have. And he looked at me kind of down his nose and over his glasses for what seemed like ages. And he took his glasses off and said, that sounds awfully risky to me. Now, you got to bear in mind, Terry, I was like a 26-year-old at this time. Yeah. And I think I'm fairly smart and I'm entrepreneurial, but the top financial advisor from this particular banking group in the whole Midlands were saying, Simon, that sounds really risky. Imagine you were there with him. What would you think? And I kind of thought, well, maybe he's right. Maybe we should just sell this one, buy another house, which was a slightly bigger house I was buying to. So I was moving up the ladder. But what I remember, Terry, was I met my student landlords when I was in my 3rd and 4th year at uni, because I did a combined honours degree. I went into a house and I met my landlords, and I sat down, had a cup of tea. One time he came around to fix some stuff. So I said, do you want a cup of tea? We sat down, had a chat. And he kind of explained how property worked. And I probably didn't really get it, to be honest, at the time, because I was probably then 21 or something. And he said, well, I buy these houses and I rent them out. And obviously the rent I get each month is more than the mortgage and the bills and things. And I make profit. And he had about 100 houses in Selly. Those would be worth probably about 40 or 50 million pounds now. And I think something stuck in my head, and I thought, that sounds really, really good. So I think I want to do that. And so that's why, by accident, if you like, so I didn't buy an investment property. I just moved out of my first home and turned that into a 3-bed student HMO. And I think it's how a lot of people get into property, by accident. And I think the difference between me and maybe other people is sometimes people, they can't sell a house, they move on, or maybe they have a house, they meet a partner, they move, they got the spare house, and some people rent it out, but they do it very much as a hobby, as I was doing it. But I actually realized, I had this real light bulb moment in about 1998, when I realized that this one single property I had that was very, very low effort for me. I'd pop in once a month as I was going past to make sure it was okay. The money would come in every month. There was no problem at all. It was making about £500 profit per month. Okay. Now that's not a lot of money, but back in 1998, that wasn't bad. Bear in mind, my full-time job at Cadbury's, I was earning about £1,500 a month. And as far as I could see, I'd have to go to work every day and give value and perform. And then if I was there a whole month, they'd then pay me. But my property, I'd spend like a couple of hours going to the house, checking everything's okay a month, and I'd get a third as much as I get in my salary. I thought, hang on, if I had some more of these, I could replace my salary. Now, I didn't know what I was doing. I learned very slowly. There weren't podcasts like this. There weren't webinars. The internet was only kind of just really getting going, I guess. This is the day you wouldn't go online to find a property. You'd look at the sign. You'd call the agent, probably on your landline, and go around to look at the house. Right? It was very, very different then. Yeah, and so I started to buy property slowly. And by 2001, I had enough, not to replace my income, but enough to know it worked, and enough to cover my costs. And I left my full-time job. And I remember the day I handed my notice in, it was a mixed emotion of a kind of excitement, but also fear as well. Because I thought, this whole idea of getting to a really good company and become a senior manager, working my way up, that's what I'd been led to believe was what you do. And yet I didn't have to do it. And I was walking away from that. And it took me a couple of years to 2003, by which time I actually fully replaced my income. And I found that investing can be really lonely. All my friends were working. None of my family ever invested, like I said, apart from their own homes. And I thought, I really need to kind of try and connect with some other people learning. And a few years before, I'd started investing in my own personal development. I'd gone to a big event with Anthony Robbins, who's a peak performance coach. You've probably heard of him. And he talks about environment. He says, you need to get around like-minded people. You become like the 5 people you spend most of your time with. And I was going to breakfast networking meetings for my business. I met a great accountant, mortgage broker, solicitor, all the people I needed. The only problem is none of those people owned property apart from their own homes. So they didn't really understand what I was trying to do, what I was trying to get to. And I thought there've got to be other people like me. So in 2003, I went online to see if there's some sort of property networking. There wasn't any at all. Crazy since there's so much now, but there was nothing at all. So I kind of started the very first networking for property investors in the UK back in 2003. One meeting, and now it's grown to 50. So that's the pottage story of how I actually got started.
And there's 50 cities, and do they generally do one meeting per month, or is it multiple?
Yeah, so 50 cities. So London's got about 5 different locations. There's 2 locations in Birmingham, but 50 different locations around the country. So, for example, I don't know, the first Tuesday of the month is, I think, the the Southampton pin meeting, and that's every first Tuesday of the month. And the third Thursday of the month is like the Birmingham South meeting. And the idea is that it's for people who sometimes they're new to property and they just want to find out a bit more about it. They want to meet other people. Sometimes they're very experienced. And it's interesting, the more experienced people tend to be, I think the more they realize how important it is to have like-minded people around you. I'm sure you've seen it. In business or life, the more successful you get, there are generally fewer and fewer people you can speak to.
I think that's a really good point. And I kind of went on that journey at the start. You know, I went self-employed when I was 19. I'm 33 now. I used to think it's all me. I can do it all myself. Self-employed. No one can do it as good as me. So I'll do everything. And I was trying to be the ops manager, the sales director, the admin, you know, trying to be everybody at once. And you do get, I agree with what you said, you do get to a point where it's like, I can't do everything. I'm better taking people on or being around people as well. The networking then came in even later for me. Than the delegation was the first thing I had to learn. And then network is just, you come across a deal, there's always someone who's had a similar deal or is more experienced in a certain field, or they know something about planning, or they know, you know, something about tax. And, you know, there's always something, and it can be invaluable.
Absolutely. They do say your network is your net worth, and I completely agree with that.
Definitely. I was just having a conversation with someone this morning. I said, like, he was saying that his friends aren't, you know, in the same circles as him, on a different wavelength. And I said, you know, if you hang around with 5 alcoholics, you're probably going to have a drink.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the same principle, isn't it? Like, whereas if you knock about with 5 healthy people, you're probably going to become healthy. Knock about with 5 property investors, you're probably going to become one.
Exactly, because it's just what people think about, what they talk about, their attitudes, their beliefs, and you kind of will take on the attitude and beliefs of people around you. You know, so it's so important to think about who are you actually around and who are you becoming like.
Definitely love that. So how's it went from kind of that starting point in 2003 to 50 cities, and any advice on scaling that type of business for anyone?
Absolutely. Well, what happened was, like you said, I was doing everything at first myself. I had someone help me a little bit, but I was pretty much doing everything. And actually, so I go along to my first network meetings, which are here in Birmingham, where I still live. And people would say to me, Simon, how come you don't have to work? And I said, well, no, I do. I've got my properties. No, you don't go to work. How come? So I started to tell people what I had done, how I'd replaced my income. And actually, I realized that that's what I really like to do. I like to share what I've done. And I particularly like to tell you, when people would listen, they go away, they come back a month or two later, say, hey, so I listened to what you said, and I've gone and got a property, and I'd get a real sense of meaning and significance that I'd helped someone else. They'd done the work, but I'd been given the encouragement, I'd been the catalyst to maybe help change their lives. And we've had thousands of people over the years who have literally replaced their income and are now doing whatever they want to do, which is just incredible, right? So I started to actually run courses, 1-day courses, 2-day courses, and kind of to promote those, I started pin meeting. I think we did London. I was asked to speak at one of the big property shows down there. So we did a London meeting. I think we did a Manchester meeting and maybe a Bristol meeting. So there were about 4 meetings a month. And I was literally, one week I'd go to each place, and I was bombing around the country. I thought, this is not sustainable, really. So just what you said, don't think you need to do everything yourself. And actually, there were people who had done my training who had been successful. And they said, well, someone said to me, well, I'd like to have a meeting in Leeds. Can I? And I said, I can't go there. I said, no, well, maybe I can run it for you. And so basically, the people who run the meetings are people who have come on, they've done our training, they've done really well. And they want to kind of, they want to give back, because they've been helped on their journey, so they're giving back to local people, but also people who are in our pin meetings, the hosts, they benefit from massive credibility because they are part of a national network, they're a local representative. And let's say someone goes to the meeting, they've got a deal, they want a joint venture with someone, or they've got some money they want to invest. The person with the most trust and credibility in the room is the host who runs the meeting. And so the smart guys and girls who become hosts have actually not only kind of helped support other people, but they've used it, if you like, as the sales and marketing arm of their property business, and to raise credibility, etc. Because they can bring letting agents, estate agents, this meeting there. They say, oh yeah, it's a national organization. This person's the host. So it kind of has really helped them as well. And so some of our hosts have been here, like, I think the longest running is probably about 12 years they've been doing it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just a couple of things that you said there. I mean, the growing the personal brand, but in turn, it's helping others and it's helping Pin, right? So it's a win-win-win for everyone
Absolutely.
there. Yeah. I think that's great what you've done there. You've leveraged other people effectively. It's
Yeah.
you couldn't have done 50 cities yourself.
No way.
You can always go further as a team than you can by yourself, and that's testament to you. And like I say, I'm a big believer in win-win in business, and
Yeah.
that's definitely what this, by the sounds of it, is. It's Pin's winning by other people growing it for Pin,
Yes.
but they're winning also by helping others and helping themselves.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mention that, because I think, win-win is, some people approach business, life, property, that, they've always got to be the winner. That means someone else has got to lose. And actually what I teach in property investing is, if you find people, motivated sellers who have problems, they might need speed or certainty. And if we can really try and find out what their problem is, not to take advantage, but to try and help them, and to really come from a place where we're trying to put them first and understand what we can do to help them out. And if what they want matches what we want, we can give them a great solution. So it's always looking for the win-win. And because when you do that, we've had many of our students who've said that they bought properties and other people have sometimes offered more money than they've offered. But because the owner trusts my clients and likes them, and they can see that actually they're trying to help them out as well, money is not the most important thing for everyone. For many people it is, but not for everyone. We want to find those maybe 5% of people who are truly motivated, find a great win-win solution. And of course, we want to make money. We're not doing this as a charity, but I believe you don't need to screw anyone else over. I think you can do it in a really ethical way. And unfortunately, that's not a view shared by a lot of people in the property world who just want to get the best deal for themselves.
Yeah. That again, that's another good point. I think there's, unfortunately, there's a lot of them online. If you just look at Instagram, they're saying things, they're saying that they're doing one thing, and all you have to do is check company's house. They do it half the time. They don't have as many assets as they're talking about. They don't have the amount of property that they're talking about. They don't have the cash flow that they're talking about. It's not hard to find these things out, but because someone's good at branding or good at marketing, they're portraying themselves to be something that they're not. And unfortunately, that the property education space does seem to have a lot of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Everyone's got to start somewhere. When I started in 2003, I suppose I'd been investing 8 years then. I'd replaced my income, but I'd done it very, very slowly. And I was showing people how to do it quicker than me. And I guess, to be honest, I was kind of relying on, I'm helping people who are further behind than me, and I'm just letting them catch up. Right, I'm helping them catch up to me. But nowadays, and I've been teaching for 18 years, and over 18 years, what many people say to me, one of my skills is taking what might seem like a complicated subject and breaking it down so that people not only understand it, but understand how they can implement it on a step-by-step fashion. But because I've been investing teaching other people 18 years, investing 26 years now, and I've made a huge number of mistakes in my investing, particularly in the first 8 years. And also I've seen other people make mistakes. I've also got the practical depth of experience to help, because there are some people who might have been investing 3 or 4 years, they start teaching it, and they don't really have enough track record themselves. And they're just relying on being that one property ahead of the people they're helping, which is not going to be sustainable, if that makes sense. And I don't claim to know everything, far from it. I'm learning all the time because I'm still actively investing, which I think, again, is important if you're teaching people. And also, why wouldn't I? Because there's such great opportunities right now. But I think, whenever you look for someone to work with, you need to look for a few things. First of all, you've got to make sure they've actually done what you want to do. If you want to replace your income and they've not done that yet, well, how are they going to help you get there?
Yeah, exactly.
Secondly, you need someone who's, as I said, become good at explaining what they've done and teach. Just because someone's been successful, that doesn't mean they're any good at teaching other people to do that as well. And then I suppose the test of that is to make sure, have they got some case studies? Have they got some people they've been able to help and transform their lives? And you need to check that out. And then I think also you want to try and work with someone or a company that's not just a one-man band. If you do some mentoring or something, that's great. But if they're as successful as they say, they're going to be on holiday sometimes. They're going to be busy with their family, or they're working on their property. They may not be available all the time. So that's why when I started Mastermind, one of the reasons I did my year-long training program is people were asking me to mentor. And I just didn't have the capacity to do it. So I thought, well, why don't I get a load of people together? And it's rather than just a seminar, we actually get together every month. And, we can not only teach them, but get them to help each other. And then, we can all learn as a group when we mastermind, the concept coming from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And I'm a big fan of mastermind. I'm in a couple of not property, but business related masterminds in America that I go to. And I think that concept of people working together and helping each other is much better than I'm the teacher, you're the student, listen to me. It's got to be more collaborative and really understanding. So I think that's why our students tend to do quite well, because of this supportive environment. And so yeah, if you want to do training with someone, go and check them out, because there are lots of people who are talking all sorts of hype and rubbish.
Yeah, I think that's great advice actually on when selecting a coach. Make sure that they've done what you want to do, because if you want to do HMOs but they do SA,
they're not going to have the knowledge to help you. They can have it to a certain extent, because it's not. I mean, I think there's two elements. You need to have technical knowledge, know-how, but also you need to have mindset. So a good coach can help you with mindset and motivation, but you do need to know the technical stuff to be able to do property.
Yeah, definitely. You wouldn't go to a rugby coach if you wanted to know how to play football. And you wouldn't go to a really overweight person and that's what diet advice. But
isn't it amazing how many people speak to their friends to get property advice and their friends don't have any property?
Yeah, the mate down the pub who probably
Dave down the pub doesn't think I should do this.
Yeah, exactly. But I just wish that somehow the property education space could be cleaned up a little bit, because there is a lot of blaggers and bluffers out there. But,
it's about doing your due diligence, doing your research, and asking around. And it's very easy to check things out on the internet these days. Just do your research. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. So it's scaled to obviously the largest. I'm assuming it's the largest.
It is the largest network. Yeah. There are a few other companies who I think probably train more people than we do, and that's probably because I think that I still do a lot of the training, because I love to do the training. I do have a right-hand man, Annie Haynes, who's like brilliant. He knows pretty much everything I know as well. But I actually enjoy what I do. And so that's why I've not really had others. There were some other companies that they've got other people running stuff now. And again, they've got kind of people who are their students who are teaching. Nothing wrong with that, because they're specialized in a certain subject. But that's why we've only gone to a certain size. So in terms of training, there are bigger companies. But in terms of the network, we are definitely not only the longest running, but also the largest network around the UK. Soon to be around the world, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you just talked a bit of there, which I'm sure you'll share about what's coming next for PIN. But just before we jump onto the current and where your retention is and what you foresee going forward, you mentioned you're still active. What's your general strategies? Do you do loads of different strategies, Simon? Are you into?
So I've got a couple of things for the last probably 8 or 9 years. I've done a number of developments. Okay. I've done a few care homes into apartments, done a pub into a guest house, done a couple of houses into 3 flats and 7 flats, done a youth centre into 20 flats. So I've done kind of developments. And here's the thing, when I say I've done them, I've been part of a team doing them. I don't count myself as a development expert. I've had JV partners, I had project managers look after that. I've often sorted out the financing and the money and those kind of things. But actually, I'm going back to HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. I think they are a very stable cash flow, a very high generating cash flow. My caveat to HMOs is that there is an oversupply, I believe, of HMOs in most areas. And so people think, well, why would I want to do it? There's an oversupply. The point here, Terry, is there's an oversupply of very average stock. The Magnolia walls are not such great furniture. And, if you're going to do HMOs, don't do that. Don't be like everyone else. What you need to do is have a very high end, a high spec, a great looking, a very functional property, that it's not just a room in a house, which is what most HMOs are. It's this co-living concept where people are living as part of a community. And the way you do things like that is, you have dining areas that are big enough for everyone to sit around and eat as a household. You have the outdoor space. You make something of that rather than just a grotty garden. So it's really making the most of the house and making it feel like a community rather than just a room in the house. And when you do that, your tenants tend to stay longer. It's quicker to get tenants in as well. And also they pay more rent. You're not trying to compete on rent like everyone else is. You're charging a higher rent for a quality product, and there's always going to be a discerning market, people who want that better product, and it makes a lot more money. So I think high-end HMOs is the way to go, but you've got to do it right. A lot of people get put off HMOs because they don't understand about licensing and planning, all of which are important. They're actually totally separate. People often think they're the same thing. So HMOs, I haven't really got much experience myself in serviced accommodation. I think given the staycation boom of 2021, I think for the next couple of years, that's going to be an opportunity. So I'm just starting to get into that. It's not an area of my expertise. And the other area that I'm very new to and I'm kind of learning about is actually social and supported housing. And that's not just renting to benefit tenants. I've had benefit tenants for many, many years. It's specialized, and I've got someone in my community who's a real expert at it. And so I think that's a huge growth area. And to do all of those, I quite like taking commercial units and instead of turning them into small flats, turn them into purpose-built co-living, larger properties or specialized supported accommodation units. So that's kind of the strategy I'm looking at and I'm going to be doing this year. And I think they're going to be pretty big personally.
No, I love that. Love that. Yeah, I agree with the standing out, that the high end stuff. If you do be the same as everyone else, you're going to get the same result as everyone else on it. You know.
Yeah. Let me turn this off. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, the dog barking as well.
Yeah, well, that's the joy of working from home, right? Thought I'd turn my phone off. Apologies for that.
No worries, no problem, mate. No problem.
And you know it's live as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's raw. It's just run with it. But no, that's good. Thanks, mate. So that's kind of how it started, how it's going. What's next for Pin and what's next for Simon?
So it's really interesting. During the pandemic, we put everything online, and that was I was looking forward to a bit of time off of the pandemic actually, but it was the reverse. It was a really busy, tough time, and interestingly, sales were a bit down, to be fair, because I think a lot of people were cautious, not worried, but because we weren't running events, people look at events and think, oh, you're making lots of money. They don't realize how expensive it is to hire a venue and get the sound, the light. It costs a lot of money to do these things, and so we actually had a pretty good year, 2000 and 2001. And we were approached in 2000 by a company that I've worked with, someone who I've actually been mentored by in my business. I've always used coaches and mentors to get to another level. A guy called Roger Hamilton, who runs something called Genius Group. And they're a Singapore-based international business that help business owners become more successful. And he created something called Wealth Dynamics, which you might have heard of. You should go and check out. It's a really, really powerful tool. And I've known Roger for many years. We promoted his things. He's promoted us. And because he's mentored me, he understands the business very well. He's seen under the hoods, knows all the figures. And he approached me, said, Simon, we are going to float Genius Group on the New York Stock Exchange. We're doing an IPO, and I'd love to buy your business as part. And there were 5 businesses buying as part of it. We're the only property one. He's buying. His idea is to become this kind of education business for every walk of life. So they bought a university in America. They've got one of the companies they're buying helps kindergarten kids, and the whole idea is to kind of provide an alternative education to complement the existing system, because the existing education system is out of date. And so I've agreed to sell. I made a very good offer, but I'm not just leaving the property world. I'm staying as CEO probably for the next 2 to 3 years. And my job is going to be very much growing PIN and our training around the world. So we will be going to pretty much every English-speaking country first of all, and then obviously foreign ones as well. And so I'm massively excited about that, because it's going to be like a whole new business, and I love the creative side of that. So that's what I'm going to be doing on that side. I'm probably going to spend more time with my wife, I think, and hopefully get back to a bit more travel. I love international travel, so that'll be part of the job as well. And I think because I love training, even when I finish it, I won't be doing that forever. I'll be doing some sort of training because I just love helping people and seeing people grow and develop.
Love that. Sounds really exciting. I'll be looking forward to seeing that grow. I'm sure it'll be online and stuff. So that'll
yes,
be great.
thank you.
And fair play, it's just like what you've done over the years, from there being no property network into being the biggest and getting the big exit. By the sounds of it, is inspiring. So fair play. Okay, cool. Just a couple of questions that came to mind as we were talking about that. You mentioned how you've got these people that run the different events for you. Is there any key attributes that you feel makes a good coach, or makes a, because I imagine these people are coaching, not just running the events, but any key attributes that you feel makes a really good property coach?
Yeah. So first of all, we've got the hosts who run the meetings, and they facilitate those meetings, and then we have separate property coaches.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So for a host, I think first of all, they need to be someone who is fairly confident speaking. That doesn't mean everyone's big, loud, and brash. We've got some who are fairly quiet spoken, but they're confident about what they do. So I think in terms of their presentation skills, and look, most people don't like standing up in front of other people, but we train people how to do that and teach them. And once people start doing it, most people kind of love it. They love the adrenaline rush. They love the feeling of helping people. Obviously, we want people who are successfully investing in property. We want people who are walking the talk, who've been successful themselves, and most of them are still investing. But the good news is someone's got to the point where actually they don't need to invest anymore because they've got enough properties to replace their income. And what they're doing is just maintaining their current portfolio, buying the occasional really good deal that comes up, and they don't need to stress. And a big mistake I think people make, Terry, in property is they say, well, I'm doing this job, which I may like or don't like, and I want to replace the income from this job with income from property. And they start to get into this rat race in property where they're buying, and actually they've just bought themselves another job, and might be under their own terms rather than working for someone else, but it's like a job they can't get away from. So the way I teach people to invest is that recognize when enough is enough, and when actually you don't have to put your foot to the pedal and go full steam. You could take life a bit easier and enjoy it. What the whole point for me about investing is to give you choice and freedom to do what you want to do with your life. So actually, if I had to choose property investing or training, and I could only ever do one of them, I would ditch the property because it's the training I love to do. But it's the property that's giving me the income to allow me to do what I want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think that is a really good point that's not really talked about very often, is when is enough enough? Just me personally, I haven't slowed down since I was 19. I don't really know how to slow down. But I've got children, I've got a family life as well, and I do have a balance. But I've never actually personally thought about when is enough enough.
Yeah,
the way I am right now.
I'd encourage you and everyone to do that because look, I'm not the kind of person I could sit on a beach and do nothing for the rest of my life. I want to be doing something. But my question, I think a lot of people get into property and they do a lot of it and they're successful. But my question, well, is that really what excites you? Is that really what floats your boat? Or is it you started as a mechanism to do what you want and you just kind of never stopped doing property? So it's a really good question. What if you won? If you won £100 million on the triple rollover next Saturday, what would you be doing next week? How would you spend your life? And then
buy £400 million of the property and leverage it all. No. But no, it is a really good point. And for me, kind of once you get to 10 or 20, and then once you get the next level, then it just does become like, for me anyway, it's a bit of like a game, and I want to keep testing myself and keep going in it. But I think some people maybe haven't thought of it like that. Some of my staff in the other businesses that I'm involved in, I do goal setting with them about what do they want to achieve, and it's 5 property or 10 properties normally the ones, isn't it? And I replace my income, it's 2-3 grand a month. But then when they get that, it's like, right, what next?
Yes.
And they need to keep moving that. But sometimes as you're going up the ladder, sometimes you should look down, not just always up. And I think that's
absolutely. And look, you can keep going, keep getting more properties and scaling up, but then more hassle, more time can come with that. Obviously, you delegate, get other people to help you out. But again, it's just about remember why you're doing all this. What's the purpose? And that's the point I wanted to make, I guess.
Yes, I think that's a real good point that anyone listening should take on board and have a think about. why are you doing it, and what's your sort of personal goals, personal vision, not just your property and financial. So just going back to the question, so that's on a host and a coach. What makes a really good property investor? Because you've seen thousands in your time. What would you say? Any key attributes?
So I think mindset is really important. And when I talk about, what do you mean by mindset? Well, I break mindset down to the ABC of mindset. A is for attitude, having the can-do, positive, the glass is half full, it's not half empty kind of attitude, and belief that there's always a way. And B actually stands for belief. So belief of what's actually possible. Some people think, it's not possible to replace your income from property. Well, of course it is, because thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people have done it. So you've got to have an open mind. You've got to believe what's possible. And if someone else has done it, it means that you can do it. It's possible, but you've got to have the belief that you can do it. And the C from ABC stands for courage, because for you to be successful, for you to change your life, you're going to need to do things different from what you're doing now. And that can take courage. That can be scary. You've got to step outside your comfort zone. And so those are my 3 points, ABC of mindset. I think mindset is having the belief that you don't know it all, having the belief that there is a better way, and actually you can learn how to do that. So that's the first thing, that willingness to learn and willingness to accept that maybe what you've done in the past may not be the best way of doing it. So that's the first thing. Then I think the ability to actually be coached, be taught. I know exactly what when I've spent a bit of time with them, I can know exactly what they need to do. I can tell them what they need to do, but they just need to be open to that and actually listen to that and then go and take action. You've got to be persistent. Property investing is not easy. I don't think it's difficult. I think it's straightforward when you know how, but it's not easy. Because sometimes people say, properties get rich quick. Well, you can make a lot of money in property, but get rich quick suggests there's no effort. There is absolutely effort and there is absolutely time required. But what I'd like to remind people, Terry, is think back to that first example I gave, my first proper rental. I was making £500 a month from just a very small 3-person HMO, and I was spending about an hour or two a month doing that. So actually, the time and effort you put in up front is going to be the greatest effort. And then to maintain that, there's very, very little effort at all. In fact, you can, which is what I do now, delegate all the management to other people. Now, you pay for that, obviously, and maybe you don't do that at first because you want to get income, but you'll get to a point where you can actually step back, get other people to do it for you, and then it truly can be very, very passive. I spend about 1 hour per week managing the people who manage my properties, and I have a call once a week on a Monday to look at the finances and talk about any problems, and that's it. I could do it from anywhere in the world, and often I do make that call from somewhere in the world. Well, not for the last 2 years, but I often do that. And so it's that flexibility that you get from property. So you've got to be persistent, you've got to have the open mind, you've got to be coachable, training, and you've got to recognize that some of the things that you think are correct and believe to be true may not be correct. For example, a classic example is as a homeowner, we're told the debt is a bad thing and we should pay down the debt as quick as possible. That's what that financial advisor told me. And he was right if you're only ever going to have one property. But actually paying down your house or your investments is not the best way, especially when you want to grow at first. You should use equity in properties, refinance, take that out and use that as a deposit to buy more until you get to the point where you have enough. Then you can pay some down if you want, depends on your tax situation. But it's a different way of thinking to the conventional thinking that we've all been brought up with.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think it's bang on. And something you said there about not everything you think right now is right. Someone said, I think it was a previous guest, it might have been Alfie Best, said, just because you're rich, it doesn't mean that you're right.
Absolutely.
Such a good one, that, isn't it? Because some people do, when they get a few quid behind them, they're buying some properties.
You think you're invincible.
Yeah, everything I see is right because I'm wealthy, I've got money. And you said it, like it's not the case.
Yeah.
things change, markets change, strategy change.
Sometimes the hardest people for me to help are people who've been investing in property 10, 15, 20 years, and they've been successful, and they've just found something that works, and they cookie cutter, repeat, which is great. But they sometimes believe that, right, that's how it should be done. I know what I've done. I'm making money, and they shut down their mind to other opportunities. And when we've had people come on our training, particularly our master, we've had people who've been investing 15, 20 years, and they've taken the time to build up portfolio. And then because we get them thinking differently, because we get them to really understand about leverage and tapping into other people's resources, we've had people who've doubled up in a year what took them 15 years previously. Which is, and you kind of think, well, why didn't they do that before? Because they weren't in the right environment. They had to open their mindset and had to maybe learn some different ways, some smarter ways of doing things.
Yes.
Not saying what they did was wrong. It served them. I bought a number of properties, Terry, which seemed like good ideas at the time, knowing what I knew at that time. But looking back now, with the power of hindsight, I wouldn't buy some of those properties if I had the chance again. And anyone who's been in property for a while and has got a reasonable sized portfolio, if they're honest, they'll say that as well. Someone who says they've got amazing properties, they've never made mistakes, just talking complete rubbish.
No, you're bang on. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. There's loads of gems there, I think. And it's great advice from someone who's very experienced and been around the block for years, as you have. So, and
I'm still learning. I don't claim to. Let's say I don't really understand about this social housing. It's a completely different, a different language they speak. So I'm educated. So I'm learning from someone how I can get into that, because I don't want to take a long time. I think there's an opportunity now. I want to get up to speed as quick as possible, find the best way to get in. So I'm very open-minded. I always look, whether it's business, property, if I want to learn something, I'll look for the people who've done what I want to do and are good at transferring that knowledge to other people. And I'm happy to pay them for that.
Yeah, definitely being open-minded enough, no matter what level you're at. There's always someone above you anyway, isn't there, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
Love that. Just to sort of wrap up, the show's called the Rags to Riches Show, Simon. I know you haven't spoke offline. You haven't exactly came from rags. It's been a good upbringing. But going from rags to riches can mean just going from something to something bigger, or going from nothing to something, being self-made. But what does the phrase "being rich" mean to you? Because being rich, you can be rich in time, in monetary terms, assets. But what does being rich mean to you?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because I think it depends if you use the word rich or wealth, and sometimes they're interchangeable. But same thing, wealth doesn't necessarily just mean money. Rich doesn't just mean money. I think let's just purely talk about rich, I think rich can be your experiences you have, the life you live, the tapestry that you have sewn over the years, if that makes sense, not to be too much of a pun, but it's your life experience. And I come back to what I said at the beginning about actually your network, your relationships. And I've just done one of I have my podcast, and I just recorded an episode about what I call relationship capital. And I think that's what I mean by that is it's the relationships you have with people. And after all, property is a people business, right? Those relationships are people who like you, who know you, trust you, and would help you out. Not looking for anything, just help you out because they like you, right? And actually, I think that's true wealth. I think that's being rich, when you've got relationships where people want to help you out, they want to do things with you, and if you lost everything today, you could get financially, you get that back much quicker because of that relationships and those connections you've built up over the years. So I think that's being rich. And I also think your mindset, your mindset is so important. You can have a rich, growth-orientated mindset, which is very different from a stuck, fixed mindset. And there are some people who are rich financially, but they don't have a very enriched life.
Well, yeah, love that. It's all right as well. Some of these really rich people that don't, all they've got is money, right? Because they've sacrificed everything, isn't it? That's why
and sometimes they've got lots of money because they're really tight. So they don't like spending it. Well, I believe, if you earn money, I think you should spend it. I'm a great spender. I love spending money, and you want to help the money go around, right? You don't. If you hold anything, it stagnates. So you need to get things moving.
Love that. I think that's a great way to end the show there. Thank you so much for coming on, Simon. If anybody wants to reach out to you, if anyone wants to find out more about what you guys do, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So a couple of things. Obviously, if you want to go to one of the Property Investor Network meetings, I'm sure we'll put a link in the podcast description and below the video. But it's dead simple website. It's PIN meeting, pinmeeting.co.uk. And what we'll do, Terry, we can speak after this and come up with a code that people can use who've listened to this podcast. And if they've never been to a PIN meeting before, it's only £20 to come along. But what we'll do, we'll create a little code that will be in the description that they can use to come to their very first meeting for free as our gift to them, as a listen to this podcast. Okay, so that's, if you want to learn about property, that's a good thing. You can obviously check out my book, Property Magic, which is an Amazon bestseller. You can get it on physical, which I prefer, or Kindle, or even audio on Audible. So that's a good way to kind of learn a bit more about what I do. And if you want to connect to me, I've got, there's a Property Magic podcast as well, which comes out every Tuesday. Check that out. Connect me on LinkedIn. The spelling of my surname is Zutshi, Zutshi. So reach out, say you've come to this podcast. I'm happy to connect and see how I can help you. So it's been a real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for asking me.
Likewise.
I hope everyone listening has been able to pick out some gems and golden nuggets going to be useful for them in their journey. And as ever, I just encourage everyone to invest with knowledge and invest with skill.
Class. Love it, Simon. Thank you so much, mate. Have a good rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, mate.